We are closing in on Election Day, November 8th. A lot of the candidates still out there on the trail, meeting and greeting, shaking hands. And one of them is Tom Newland, who's an incumbent, Blaine City Council, Ward 1. He joins us now. Tom, thanks so much for stopping by. And so you want to continue to be part of the Blaine City Council?
Absolutely.
How's that going?
Well, thanks for the invitation first and foremost. I was appointed 5 months ago to fill a vacancy. And the next day is when candidate filing started, so it's been nonstop ever since. How's it going? It's very well. I mean, the council is phenomenal. The dynamics that the group has in itself as well as within staff is, I knew there was very good dynamics within City Hall, but I wasn't aware of how deep it was. I mean, it's just a tremendous group of people, both serving on the council as well as within City Hall. It's a great organization, and there's a lot that is happening within the city. And the discussions that we're having for the redevelopment that's going to be happening at 105th and Radisson by the National Sports Center to turn that into somewhat of an entertainment type district, as well as Northtown Mall. I mean, those are generational opportunities for us to make a change and make an impact, not only for the council, for the city, but for everybody in the whole area. So it's a lot that's moving and a lot that doesn't seem like it's always moving, but progress takes a little bit of time, and time is what we're always working against, but there are things that will continue to happen within that as well as everything else within the city. I mentioned when we talked earlier that the biggest issue that we've gotten in the city of Blaine, all across the city, is Highway 65.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm on the south side of the city when I was coming up here, and I got on Highway 10, as soon as you get underneath Highway 10, or I get on 65, as soon as you get underneath the Highway 10 bridge, I can see traffic lights as far as I can. And that from 10 to, it's actually down to one lane on 99th, that's probably half a mile plus. Middle of the day, traffic is stopped. So I do what people do in rush hour traffic, either morning or evening. You find an alternative route if you know that it's not going to go very quickly. So I jumped off 65, take a couple of side streets, and that adds, the problem continues. It's like dominoes. So if the pressure is happening here, it takes another avenue to literally to take some of the pressure off. But that's an issue that will take time again, but it's something that will be resolved. It's just a matter of when.
Yeah, and that's one topic where we have universal agreement. Everybody is seeing red, literally, with all those brake lights. Hey, let's fix, Minnesota State Highway 65, get it where it needs to be. Now, Blaine already has a lot of positives, as you know, Tom. National Sports Center,
right.
The 3M Open comes here on a yearly basis, PGA Tour, some great restaurants and businesses. But in some ways, it's still a sleeping giant. And once 65 opens up, I'm guessing the giant will waken.
Well, I think it's already awakening in other portions of the city where there's access to Blaine coming off of 35W up to Lexington, as example, and that area is just exploding. There's a lot of vacant land up there, too. In the southern part of the city, which is the ward that I represent, there's not as much vacant land, but there's still redevelopment opportunities, which is, again, Northtown Mall and 105th and Radisson, where that will continue to make the best decisions for the entire city. Is what we're working on collectively over time. But all throughout the city, yeah, it really is, to a certain extent, it's been kind of a sleepy city that hopefully it'll bring us the notification it has been, or the notice that we've been receiving for the last 30 some odd years that the National Sports Center has been there, and all of the activity that happens really year round. It's not just middle of June or July when you've got the big Schwann's Cup going on and the Target Cup. The rinks stay busy. There's activity there almost every weekend, not with soccer only, not with hockey only. You've got lacrosse, you've got disc golf, you've got a lot of activities there. Plus the golf tournament, as you mentioned, with formerly the 3M Invitational or the Senior Classic, and now you've got the actual PGA. There's a lot of people that end up showing up with that, and it gets broadcast worldwide, I presume. It's not the big names because it's right now coming right on the heels of the British Open, but it's a great event, and there's a lot that's happening in and around there. Those two venues make Blaine, to a large extent, a sports town, and by putting this entertainment complex really on 105th and Radisson, it will capture hopefully a lot of the people that are there and make it into a destination entertainment type center. So once people are done with their event at either one of those venues or others around there, hopefully they'll stay here and enjoy Blaine as a city.
Yeah, you've got the Goodyear blimp hovering above Blaine for 3 or 4 days. So that does put you on a global stage. And tourism is huge in the city. And I know you want to keep tapping into that. Is that correct?
Well, there's so many people that come here. I think there's 4 million plus visitors that visit Blaine, which is more than go to the U.S. Bank Stadium in downtown Minneapolis for the events that are down there. So collectively, there's a tremendous amount of activity coming in, not only from the Twin Cities, from the state, from nationally. I mean, that's just the National Sports Center is a huge draw just because of all the sporting fields, all the soccer fields, all the hockey rinks, everything. It really coalesces, and the National Sports Center has some great plans that they would like to continue to build off that too. But everybody runs into the same challenge, and that's funding, that's money. Where does the state come up with giving the National Sports Center what they would like to invest in their facility? And Blaine can only do so much on our own too, because our taxpayers are fairly burdened with what we've got. And we want to make sure that we're giving all of our taxpayers a fair bang for the buck, literally.
What are you hearing when you knock on the doors, shake the hands, and visit with the residents of Blaine about what they want moving forward?
Yeah, traffic is, again, it's a perpetual, not only on 65, but all the side streets as we talked about. Traffic enforcement with people that seem like they're speeding, they're not obeying traffic, stop signs, traffic lights. That'll always be an issue. It's just nonstop. Crime, we're seeing some increases down in the Northtown area to a large extent, but just different types of crime than we are used to as a city, with more violence, more attention-getting type of activities that we have been lucky to escape for so many years. But now it's here because the city, in fact, has been growing. Development, but also redevelopment, where the areas in the city, again, down on the southern third where my ward is, there isn't as much land, but there's opportunities for some of the investors to build apartment complexes, build multifamily developments. And that becomes a challenge in finding the balance between development and the existing development, where in my opinion, the priority is first given to the residents that are there. How does it impact the people in the neighborhood? What do they like, what don't they like, and then see what can the developer, what can the builder come up with as a compromise to help things work. Sometimes they don't work, and sometimes it's maybe an opportunity to find a different location for it. I've run into that a couple of times because that is what is, it's a hot topic in and around areas where you do have homes. There was a couple that I visited on Saturday have been in the same home for 60 years.
Wow.
So they have seen Blaine clearly change, as have any of us that have been here for any amount of time. And there's things that should change, but to find a developer that comes in with a group of investors wanting to put $30 or $40 million in your neighborhood, so to speak, that has its pluses, has its minuses, and it's a matter of kind of finding the balance. So between traffic, crime, development, and redevelopment, those are recurring themes that I'm seeing and hearing. There's a lot of positives about Blaine and what's happening with Northtown in particular and the redevelopment on 105th and Radisson, but those are the continuing themes, as well as lower my taxes or keep taxes in check. Well, it costs something to do business as a city, to offer the services that Blaine provides. A lot of the bigger investments you don't even see. It's going to be your water, your sewer, your underground infrastructure systems, cable for TV. There's a mini Gasco line that's going in down to the southern part of the city by business. I mean, those are things that are expensive. You can tell when they're going on because everything is ripped up for a while, but then it's all covered up and you think, what did I get for $5 or $10 million?
Yeah.
New development is always, that people like, is above ground, but there needs to be the investment, even on the ground. I mean, making sure your roads are current and keeping things safe.
The future of Northtown, it's foggy. A lot of people have a lot of ideas. Nothing has stuck yet. What's your vision for that area?
I think the vision that the city has is a solid one, taking taking the retail and balancing it with more housing, restaurants that will be in there. Right now, it's an old mall. I mean, it was built in the 70s, maybe the late 60s. I remember coming down here when we moved here from Duluth in the early 70s. It was a great spot where you had the scale model of the Titanic that they used in the Night to Remember movie back in the 50s. You had aquariums, you had a lot of activity with the nice retail anchors that were there. And as things progressed over time, as all industries, retail does a particular, online shopping and all that, that Northtown Mall area, especially when the Highway 10 was built, the new Highway 10 was built a mile north of it, you took 50,000 cars a day and you moved it a mile north and all of a sudden you lose the visibility in the traffic. So over time, that mall has changed and it has an opportunity with the multiple landowners that are there that are interested in doing something ideally collectively. And the master vision for Northtown does have a nice balance of residential and retail. The mall will still be there, maybe in a different format. There will still be room for bigger footprints of businesses, but a nice balance of some of the restaurants that people have been talking about for a long time. And there are a lot of those entities that would like to do something, but if they see it all happening as part of a big framework, that may bring some of those concepts to reality.
Some other candidates have told me they have a vision of a downtown Blaine, a core central city, if you will. Is that something you'd like to see?
It depends on where it would be, because there would be some kind of main street, so to speak, in the Northtown area. There's also a destination around the entertainment center off 105th and Radisson. It's tough for a suburban area to completely change its identity, and we can't become an Anoka, we can't become a Stillwater, we can't become a Hopkins. Those are well-established downtowns, but to have a core area where it might be more of a focus for this is where Blaine is and what it really means. The Blaine Festival Parade happens the week, before the 4th of July, runs right down the middle of a residential area, which is what Blaine has been. Yeah. If over time that migrates to maybe a more secluded type of area within a business area, like a Northtown Mall or the 105th, that's not up to me to decide, but those are those type of things that could really happen. So am I a big proponent of it downtown? It's more, where will it be and what it will look like? I think that's for the developers to kind of work with everybody collectively to determine what does that mean.
As you said earlier in the interview, you were appointed to the city council a few months ago, so you've hit the ground running. Was it an instantaneous decision for you to say, okay, I want to run and actually get elected in November?
Actually, I ran 2 years ago. I've been involved with a lot of things in the city for over 20 years. I've owned my business for 29 years. I've lived in this area within actually 8 miles of City Hall for over 40 years. And I've been involved in a number of different organizations, a number of different governmental entities. So I've progressed with my knowledge base as to serving on the Parks Board, serving on the Fire Department's Board of Directors, working with different educational groups and helping them get going. So it just continues on in a progression of things I've been doing basically my entire life. So I wanted to get more involved, and I happened to run during the COVID era, which limited things from my perspective. If I'm not comfortable talking to somebody about why I want to run for election, if they're not comfortable talking to me, it's an awkward conversation. So the gentleman that ran had done all that lead work 2 years prior, and he came close to unseating an incumbent. It's unfortunate that once he was elected, a year later, he had to resign to move and relocate. So I had heard about that discussion and didn't think much of it because I thought I've been down that path. I don't necessarily need to continue. When I was approached by a couple of the elected officials here in the city, asked, would you consider it? And when a couple of them in particular said, we'd like you to consider it, I said, not a problem. So I was happy to be involved. And I know they had 7 applicants, some very well qualified people. And they determined without even talking to people that I knew most of the people on the council, I knew the mayor, I knew a lot of people at City Hall, that they made their appointment easy. And I was honored to be appointed. I'm honored to be selected. I'm honored to serve, and I'm equally honored to continue to run for possibly a re-election. If it happens, that would be great. But it was very easy. Yeah, I mean, I found that there's some things I didn't know a lot about of public works, as example. Engineering, I didn't know a lot about. A number of the other departments, I'm quite familiar with how they work. So that base knowledge made it fairly easy to piece everything together. We're right now deep in the middle of the budget process that should be wrapping up here sooner than later. It can never wrap up quick enough, but there's a lot of work that we put into ensuring that we know where the dollars are coming from, where they're going to go to, and there's a lot of demands that the city has, that the residents have, that we need to fill as best we can, but it's a matter of having a nice plan and working towards that. There's a lot of roads that are older that need repair. You can't do everything at once because we can't afford it, but a systematic process over time, especially in the lower part of the city, the lower ward where or the Ward 1 where I'm at, a lot of those roads are in fact older, and they are the ones that are getting rebuilt first. Same with water, same with sewer. That's where the older infrastructure is. That needs to happen so we can help then work with Northtown. It all pieces together, because once the infrastructure is in place to handle developments like Northtown, it'll come together faster.
So, quick final thought. I think we all agree that when 65 is, up to snuff, it'll be a slam dunk. It will improve the lives of everybody. From a business perspective, you run Allegra Printing right off the highway. How much better will it be for businesses in that area?
Good question. We are not a destination business. We are business to business business. And most of our customer base doesn't come into the store ever or the business ever. We do things with the internet. We do it over the phone, via email. I know there are retail businesses along Highway 65 that don't mind the traffic because you've got now 50, 60,000 cars a day that are creeping along at a couple times a day that can see, hey, there's a place that I've
discovered something.
That's exactly something that is beneficial to them. So it'll change things for them. There's no question about that. The change is going to happen. And I think we all welcome it because it will enable us to do things differently. I don't think it's going to kill the Highway 65 or retail corridor at all. It'll probably enhance it, and there will be different things that will be coming from it.
Tom, enjoy the visit. Good luck on Election Day.
Went all too fast. Thanks,
Yeah,
Eric. Appreciate it.
All right, he's Tom Newland, the incumbent, Ward 1, Blaine City Council, up for election again. This is Local Decision 2022.